Hey, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome to Part C Weekly Halaqah, starting again, inshallah, now from Tuesdays, 6 p.m. So Part C is international. We're working on creating leaders for the Islamic world based on nature's living systems. So you're going to be taught by Sheikh Muhammad Bowles. Over to you, Sheikh. Sheikh, you can start, inshallah.
Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalam Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I pray everyone is well and it's good to be back for the weekly halaqah, which as sister said is on Tuesdays 6 p.m. GMT, and it's over a period of 6 weeks, and there are a number of topics that I want to cover and to connect with a number of ayat in the Quran. And I'm hoping each session to get through them all, but in fact, that is not the purpose. In fact, it doesn't really matter if we get through them all, and maybe some weeks we won't, because there's no point in rushing to get through them. A whole emphasis here in this halaqah is about just spending time with them and trying to understand them. So it's basically for me to do my little bit, and then for you individually to go away and to do your own study, inshallah, and then to come back with questions and to take it further. That is then your tadabbur, inshallah. So that's what we're going to try and do. I'll do my bit, and then inshallah ta'ala you go away and do your further study, and if you want to bring that to the group and discuss it and expand it, then that's extremely good. Okay, so we go on to the first slide. So we'll call it post-Ramadan. So I think it's time, just as we begin, is just to reflect on post-Ramadan. And I did put in one of the groups, some people come out of the month of Ramadan very strong. Some people come out of Ramadan pleased that it's over. It was stressful. It was too much. And some people come out perhaps not so strong and weak, and many in fact fall back into the same traps, into the same weaknesses that they were doing before the month of Ramadan. And this month of Ramadan, this training period that's given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, comes around once a year, so it's a great blessing. And we've all realized it came and it went very quickly. But so we need to reflect, what did I gain from it? And particularly in this month, for those of you who have been with Heartsea now for some time, did you approach your Ramadan in a completely different way in relation to your relationship with the Quran, in relationship to Heartsea and its relationship to the book of nature, Al-Kitab al-Kawn? Did it change? Did it stretch your thinking and enable you to approach the Quran in a completely different way, in a much more deeper way? That's what I want you to start to ponder and to think about. So these sessions will look at the current crisis of the Muslims in the world today. And it's an opportunity, as I said to you, we had that opportunity in that Mubarak month of Ramadan, which is now gone. And whether we had a relationship with the Quran, we need to continue with it. if we didn't have a relationship, we need to then ask the question why and what do we intend to do about it, and how can we improve. What's important is the month of Ramadan was not and should not have been just about completing the Quran. This idea that in every masjid, the whole of the Quran has to be completed by the 27th. I mean, where is that in the Quran? Where is that? This whole idea of rushing every time we go to the masjid. Very rarely did we see, as the imams were reciting, that they were reciting slowly and with that desire to bring every single letter, every single word alive, not just in their hearts, but in all those that were behind. And so that month of Ramadan is gone, and so now we have to prepare for the next part, which is Hajj. Okay. And so the month of Ramadan was about the individual, and the month of Ramadan, the period of Hajj now is about the Ummah as a complete whole. So the preparations now is about how do we take those lessons from Ramadan and to connect in a more deeper spiritual way than perhaps we were prior. It's looking and understanding now the whole system of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's looking at the systems in relation to the universe and the revelation. And we will, as we go through these sessions, look at structure, look at coherence, look at order of the natural world that we should be seeing, and how that connects to the structure, the coherence, the order of the Quran, looking at surahs, looking at ayat, looking at words, and then looking at the whole purpose of humanity. And again, for those that have been or are with Heartsea, and if we just look at the whole principles of Heartsea, we see that the priorities are 5. 1 is the rewiring, 2 is the reconnecting, 3 is the rewilding, 4 is the redesigning, and 5 is the re-establishment. And if we study the development of the Sirah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam from the Meccan to the Medina period over a period of 23 years, and we look at the ayat in the Quran, we will see very clearly, underline if we see, everything that took place, okay, was through the principles of nature, through the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through the universal laws, the laws of nature. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could easily have established al-Islam in the Meccan period. There would have been no need to make hijrah to go to Medina. But that is not the system of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala operates. And so studying history of the ayat and studying the sunnah of Allah, the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is absolutely crucial. And there again, we have to study in the sirah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so the whole system, okay, has to be studied as a whole. Hence the study of the principles of nature, the language of nature, i.e. the Al-Kitab al-Kawn, is essential. And this is what we're trying to do now over the next few weeks, because the whole of the Quran is a book of signs, a book of ayah. And the majority of these relate, as I just said, to history and the command to reflect on history and the cosmos, the natural world. So we need to know the ayat, we need to understand them, but most importantly, we need to implement them. Okay, so that period of Ramadan was about the learning. So post Ramadan, how are we now going to implement what we learned in that month of Ramadan? And the Quran is a divine guidance for humanity, full of ayat, full of signposts. And these signposts cover all aspects of our life, our economic, our social, our political, our environmental. Past, ayat, present, and future. And our purpose is to be able to read these ayats as they direct us to the purpose of life on earth. And to know our purpose is to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to know his names, his beautiful names and his attributes, which are all around in the macro as well as in the micro. So this halaqah, dear brothers and sisters, is in fact the subject of Tawheed. It is the subject of Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu rasuluh, to witness and submit. Go on to the first slide, please.
All right, bear with me, trying something new. 1 second.
وكأين من آية في السماوات والأرض يمرون عليها وهم عنها معرضون وما
ما شاء الله, alhamdulillah. So in Surah Yusuf, ayat 105, in the translation, and how many ayat, how many signs within the heavens and the earth do they pass over while they therefrom are turning away? So how many signs? So if we just look at Surah Yusuf and these few ayat, this is a message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that don't worry, okay, don't panic that they're not turning away just because of you. This has happened with previous nations, how I've continually showed them the signs. The signs are abundant. They're in the heavens and they are in the earth, but they continue to turn away. So this ayat 105, okay, and so why are they turning away? Okay, and even if we go to ayat 106, وَمَا يُؤْمِنُ أَكْثَرُهُمْ عَنْهَا مُعْرِضُونَ, and most of them believe not in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without ascribing other partners with him. Even if we then explore, which is not for today, Surah Ankabut, okay, where here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to that, yes, they all believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They believe in a creator, but they take others and they take others to worship. So this is because of shirk, okay? So how many signs within the heavens and the earth do they pass over? Why they're from are turning away? Why are they, okay, turning away from the abundance of signs, from everything that is there, the clouds, the sun, the moon, the stars, everything that is there in front of them, the trees, the animals, the insects, the wind, the rain, okay, everything. Why are they turning away? So this was a message to the Prophet that don't worry, okay, because this is how other nations have acted. And then in that next ayat, and it's not just the majority that are turning away, it's even the minority that are turning away. So it's not just the majority, it's the minority, which is a lesson meaning that it is only a few, and this is a message for us, it's only a few that are the ones that are going to be able to see the signs and learn about the signs. And the main reason is because of the self, because of this state of ghafla. Ghafla is a state of heedlessness, okay? How many signs do you and I, okay, we engage with creation every single day, but does it affect us? And even I look at this and I look at Heart C, and it's a continual worry and concern for me that whether I'm teaching the general public or whether I'm trying to teach in the maktab or the madrasa or to ulama, they're just not connecting. They're just not connecting. They're and they say to me that yes, we can see this. In fact, they can see the signs. Okay, but then again, what is it because? It is because of this state of ghafla, of heedlessness, and as well that they are seeing the signs every single day, and it's just not registering. And even to us today, where 99.99% of humanity is looking down, and we're not even looking up. So this was a message in Surah Yusuf to the Prophet. Don't panic. It's not because of you. Okay, you carry on with the message. Okay, and it's not the majority that are going to witness these signs. It's not even the minority, but it's going to be even lesser than the minority. Subhanallah. So this is our first understanding, is we are not connecting to the signs today, and all of the nations have not connected, even though the signs are there in abundance. Carry on to the next slide, please. And so these three pictures here, the one on the left, the one in the middle, which explains what an ayat is, okay? And it's a sign. An ayat is a sign, it's a signpost. The whole of the Quran is a kitab of signs, and all of these signs are directness on a journey to none other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whether we look in the signs in the macro, whether we look in the signs in the micro. And the fact is, and this is what was disturbing the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, is he was concerned, why are they not looking at the signs? Why do they not believe, even though Allah has put all of these signs there? And so we really have to understand today what signs are, and it's the study, the science of semiotics, okay, looking at the term of the signified. What part of a sign is connected to the signified? What part of the sign is connected to the signifier? And we've just come out of that month of Ramadan. We cannot understand the Quran without understanding the many ayats in relation to the natural world. The Kitab al-Kawn, the book of nature, is there just about on every single page. And so these patterns that you just see here in the slide, okay, in the beautiful color on the left, and we break them down onto the right-hand side. These are the patterns, okay, which really connects to Surah Yusuf in a very simple way, in a very basic way. Level one, foundation level, okay? Why we are heedless to these signs. Why are we not seeing these basic patterns in nature? The patterns that are there in the cosmos, the patterns that are there in the natural world, and the patterns that are there within ourselves, and the patterns that are there that explains the seerah of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the patterns that explains the history, past, present, and future. Okay, it's because these signs are all around us, but we are in a state of ghafla, of heedlessness. And it's not just for now, for the Muslims, it was for the Muslims of the past. Okay, very important for us, and we keep coming back to this. And this is why with Heartsea we go through these principles so we can approach the patterns in nature, okay, which these fundamental patterns that you see on this slide are the fundamental patterns which explains the language of nature, which explains as incorporates into the Sunan of Allah, the universal laws. And these patterns, and two patterns in particular, one is the fractal pattern, and one is the the cyclical, the cycle pattern is there continually in the Quran. We have to see it, we have to understand it. Okay. Next slide.
من يهد الله فهو المهتدي ومن يضلل فأولئك هم الخاسرون ولا
And here in this ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, whoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides, he is the rightly guided. And whoever he sends astray, it is those who are the losers. So every day we are reciting Surah Al-Fatiha. In fact, when we just spoke there about briefly, and from the slide we saw those patterns, those key patterns that is in the cosmos, in the natural world, and within ourselves. And those key patterns we have to understand, and even those key patterns are crucial to understand about the life in Mecca, the surahs, the lessons in Mecca, and also in Medina. As I was explaining, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if he wanted to, he could have avoided all the pain and the suffering that the Prophet and the companions went through and just made everyone Muslim. But that is not the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so in Surah Al-Fatiha, okay, in Surah Al-Fatiha, as in the whole of the Quran, is the fractal pattern. So we, through the contact, through this connection with the natural world, which connects us to the principles of Heartseed, we need to be able to see the pattern, the fractal pattern, understand it, and then see how we're seeing it and understand it, how even this fractal pattern is there throughout the whole of the Quran. And this fractal pattern, and we'll learn it as we go through each week, is there in Surah Al-Fatiha. Because we are in Surah Al-Fatiha, that we
You muted yourself.
5 times we are asking for guidance. Guide us to the straight path, okay? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds in Surah Al-Baqarah, Alif Lam Mim, Dhalika al-Kitabu la rayba fi hudan lil muttaqin. And the Quran will only open if we are on that path of becoming the muttaqi. Otherwise, there is no guidance. And to follow this guidance, and we will learn as we go through these weeks, that we have to also understand the key mission given to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is there in Surah Jumu'ah, and we will cover that also. Very easy. Why are we reciting Surah Al-Fatiha 5 times a day? Because it is a fractal pattern, and if we understand Surah Al-Fatiha, we've understood the whole message of the revelation, and then the guidance will begin to happen. So already you can see this relationship between the natural world, between the patterns that we need to understand, and through to understand the sunnah of Allah, these universal laws that are there embedded in the Quran, but we need to see them. Next slide.
ولقد ذرأنا لجهنم كثيرا من الجن والإنس لهم قلوب لا يفقهون بها ولهم أعين لا يبصرون بها ولهم آذان لا يسمعون بها أولئك كالأنعام بل هم أضل أولئك هم الغافلون.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Raf, and we have certainly created for hell many of the jinn and mankind. They have hearts with which they do not understand. They have eyes with which they do not see. And they have ears with which they do not hear. Those are like livestock. Rather, they are more astray. It is they who are the heedless. So here we can take a lesson, and we have certainly created for hell many, of the jinn and mankind. Allah says, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ لِيَعْبُدُونَ, that I have not created jinn and mankind except to worship me. Understand that jinn, nations of jinn, comes before mankind. And we need to also unpack jinn, going back to Prophet Sulaiman alayhi salam, and going back to jinn, and Iblees, a'udhu billah, and then understanding before jinn there is bin and also hin, and how this is connected to ancient civilizations, which we have to understand to really understand about the natural world, which then opens up a subject which we will begin to explore, not to go in too deep at this level. With the Halaqah is about vibration, resonance, and energy, something that jinn clearly understood, something that the jinn understood in relation to Prophet Sulaiman alayhi salam, and something that ancient civilizations understood, and something that we need to understand also in relation to the cosmos and the natural world, which brings us also in the recitation of the Quran and the whole life in its entirety. So what is it that the hell has been created, and most of those inhabitants will be from the jinn and from mankind? And may Allah protect us, because there is a hadith, it is a mutawatir hadith, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to the angel Jibreel alayhi salam, take out of every 1,999 for the hellfire. Take out of every 1,999 for the hellfire. So the question is, because we need to keep asking questions. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also asking us to ask questions, and also Allah asks us questions. And we need to know in the Quran when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking us a question, or who is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asking a question. So what could cause 999 out of every 1,000 to go to the hellfire? None other than shirk. Shirk is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never, ever forgive. And so we have to be very careful that this is embedded in this state of ghafla, this state of heedlessness. So if we go back to Surah Yusuf, looked at Surah Ayat 105, how many ayat in heavens and earth do they pass, but they just ignore? And then we learn in Surah 106, so when Allah is explaining to the Prophet, don't worry about them. This is how previous nations have operated. They just ignored the signs. It's not you. And here Allah is saying, remember that it's just it's even the minority. So it's the very few that will be left on earth who will not be in a state of ghafla. And it is because they have hearts which they do not understand. The qalb, okay? Not the pumping heart, but it is the qalb. And again, we're going to learn as we go through this halaqah the importance of the heart. And here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala focuses on the heart first, then the eyes, which do not see, and the relationship between the eyes and the heart. And we're seeing when we look at heart see and the focus on those principles, we are just focused on just to realign and to retune ourselves to these signs of the natural world by using our five senses, predominantly the eyes and then the ears. But that's just a journey which then should take us to the heart. Because we're going to learn as we go on, that inshallah ta'ala, it's the heart that actually sees. And even science is showing us now. And the ears. Now, even when we do the sit spots, okay, and those of you who've been with me when we do the sit spots, we focus on the sit spot of looking, we focus on the sit spot of hearing. And you may think that the key focus is on the seeing, but in fact, the key focus is on the hearing, because the hearing is connected to sound. And as we go through the course, we're going to understand the importance of sound and how this is so crucial, even in the mission of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then gives an example of livestock. Okay, even these that are going to the hellfire, they are in a worse state than livestock. Now, all Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given guidance that we saw in Surah Baqarah. Okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given guidance all of his creation, to the animal kingdom, to the plant kingdom, to the mineral world, okay? Even to the life within quantum physics, okay? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has guided everything. And we learned from the Quran, compared to what science would tell us, that everything has a level of consciousness. So when we see the livestock eating, when we see the livestock walking and going to the toilet and mating, they are doing what they are supposed to do. So they are in an act of ibadah, okay? But we are, if you look at the cow just with its head down eating grass, okay, it's doing what it's supposed to do, but Allah is trying to give an understanding of imagery. Look at the cow. You are like the cow. The cow is doing what it should be doing, but you are worse than the cow. Likewise, you go into a field of cows, the cows won't even move. Okay, they're completely to us in a state of heedlessness, but they're not. They're doing what they're supposed to do. Whereas if you went into a field and you saw a wild deer, like a muntjak, then as soon as they saw you as a human, because of that alertness, because they can see, they would then move away. Subhanallah. Very important here to understand this. And here, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about seeing, here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the term in seeing basura. Okay, so we have to understand the different types of seeing. And here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about basura, which is a deep, deep way of actually seeing. Next slide, please.
أولئك الذين طبع الله على قلوبهم وسمعهم وأبصارهم وأولئك هم الغافلون.
And those are the ones over whose hearts, qulubu, laqalb, okay, whose hearts plural here, and the hearing, wasam'ihim, and the vision, basara. Again, we've just spoken about the term Basra. Okay, so the question is, we've mentioned many times in previous lessons, why, and we need to know why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to seeing in different ways. So we have to really understand the Arabic language. Why does Allah, for example, in one ayat refer to Basra, example here? Why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refer to another ayat in the terms of seeing in, for example, Ra'a? Why would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refer to another ayat in relation to Nadhara? So we have to understand here. But Basra is that deep under that deep level of seeing, and Basra has a very deep relationship with here the heart, which is with the qalb. And so we have to be careful that summun bukmun umyun, deaf, dumb, and blind. And notice how summun bukmun umyun, deaf, the sound comes before the seeing. Okay, and then the heart, sound comes first. We also learn that the sound, the sense of hearing, is the first thing that is active in the embryo in the development before any other sense. And although we think when we are looking at these ayats, the focus is on seeing, why don't they see these signs? Initially, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to get us to focus, to tune in by using the eyes, which is this the sensory perception. But we will learn, and as we study about ancient civilizations, it's not just about these five senses, which accounts for about 5%, okay, of what we are seeing. The majority of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to get us to see is through the lens of the heart. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the only thing that will save you when you are in front of me will be the qalb as-salim. So it is the heart which is connected to the true seeing and not the eyes. But we're using the eyes because Allah has given these eyes to see. So it's part of this journey. Okay. But understand, although in many of the ayats the sense of seeing comes first, the key is sound first. Okay, because sound, okay, is the manifestation. So what we are seeing there is in front of us, the tree, the bird, the mountain, the sun. What we are seeing is the form taking place from the light. It is the manifestation of the sound, and the sound is connected to the vibration. Okay, we'll learn, and it connects us into quantum physics, is that everything is in a form of vibration within us and the cosmos. And how this relates to the teachings of the Quran, okay, and to the very first word which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says kun, even the noon with kun, okay, is known as a vibrating noon. Okay, and we know that even the word would end through sound. But again, what I'm teaching you now may seem completely new. It's not new when we go back and we study the ulama of the past, going way back. It's something that we're being disconnected from, which takes us back to Surah Yusuf. How many signs are they ignoring? They are ignoring because they once knew. They know the signs. Okay, every single human being is born in a state of fitrah. And we're learning through all of these that the previous nations, okay, particularly the Israelites who were the Muslims, okay, they also had this inborn fitrah, but because of this ghafla, this state of ghafla, heedlessness, and which then opens the door to shirk, and even them having the knowledge, they didn't implement it into their lives. Hence, we're really moving into this halaqah post-Ramadan. Was that month of Ramadan really about the beginning of transition to transformation, or was it about food? Okay, we've become an ummah thinking Ramadan is just about food, but the whole of that month of Ramadan was not about food. Next slide. Again, let's keep the focus on these patterns in nature that we need to see. And these two patterns that we're going to keep focused on and learn about them. One is the fractal pattern, and one is the cycle pattern. The fractal pattern can be in a positive manner or a negative manner. We are approaching this fractal pattern currently from the ayats that we are looking at briefly in a negative manner in relation to this continuation of ghafla, heedlessness, and shirk that we have seen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is explaining through these ayats of previous nations, and the cycle which is connected as well. Okay, the cycle of ghafla and heedlessness and shirk that we've seen in previous nations. And the question for us today is, where are we going to place ourselves, okay, in this picture? Because then we need to then approach this pattern of the natural world that we see in the cosmos and within us in a positive manner, and also return to the cycle in a positive manner. And then understand all of these other patterns with one key pattern that once we've understood, and to learn how to read the language of nature, one key pattern that we will see in the cosmos, one key pattern that we will see within us, one key pattern that we will see, say, which is in the macro, and within the micro, which connects us to that divine order. Okay, subhanallah. Next slide.
شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان فمن شهد منكم الشهر فليصمه ومن كان مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر يريد الله بكم اليسر ولا يريد بكم العسر ولتكملوا العدة ولتكبروا الله على ما هداكم ولعلكم تشكرون.
I explained that we need to connect the revelation to the ayats of creation, known as the Al-Kitab al-Kawn. We can't separate it. And we need to also understand that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created the universe in perfect order, in perfect harmony, in perfect symmetry, if then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would have revealed, as he did, the Quran, the final revelation to humanity in this month of Ramadan, then would then this final revelation, okay, be revealed in a completely disjointed manner? No. Likewise, the natural world is in perfect order, so the final revelation is in perfect order. And so as we go through these weeks, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to explore this under a subject which I'm pleased to say some of our ulama are slowly turning to, but was completely understood in profound ways, which is known as the nazm of the Quran, which is the structure, the coherence, and the perfect order and symmetry of the Quran. So the question is, post-Ramadan, it is only in Surah Al-Baqarah 185 where the term, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions Ramadan. Okay, this is the only place. So when we start to learn about, for example, ecosystems, or we wanted to study permaculture that we do in Heart C, and we look at the design process of where we're going to plant everything in relation to what we're seeing in the observation and the interactions, where does this particular plant, where should it go in relation to what's going on? To be able to know where to plant things, or where should things be in relation to the sun or to the rain or to shadows, we have to be able to understand ecosystems, okay? This design process, which is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and likewise with Nazm of the Quran, then the question is, why then would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala focus on the month of Ramadan in the longest surah in the whole of the Quran? Why not just take a short surah in a Meccan surah and just focus there? Okay, for example, Wal Asr, okay, that short surah in just 3 or 4 ayats. Why in the largest surah? So we have to understand why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed Ramadan where it is here in Surah Al-Baqarah, which helps us to move away from this state of heedlessness, okay? And we then have to sit back, which makes us sit back and then focus on the subject of tadabbur, which we will then learn in the halaqah, to look at everything from a distance and to look at everything from the back, look at the whole picture and understand that the key subjects that are mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah are, after the first ayat, Alif Lam Mim, Dalikal Kitabu la rayba fihi hudan lil muttaqin. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the believers. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the disbelievers. And then Allah talks about the worst of all, which is the munafiq, the hypocrites, okay, which is connecting to these ayats that we have recited tonight. That those who, yes, they see the signs, but yes, they're not interested. They're in a state of wafla. Or go to Surah Al-Ankabut. Yes, they believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as the Quraysh did, but they also believe in other forms, in other deities as well. And even in today, it's not just a statue as was in the time of Ibrahim alayhi salam, okay, around the Kaaba with the Quraysh, going way back in Islamic history. But for example, shirk in relation to desire, lust, anger, okay, which can grow in a most negative manner and take over and transform someone in a most negative way. That takes you into a state of heedlessness and also this state of oppression. So then you, through the anger, through the lust, through the jealousy, through whatever it may be, that becomes your God. That is this element of shirk that we have to be careful of. So another story in Al-Baqarah is about the Israelites, how they had the prophets given to them by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They had the revelations. They were surrounded by the signs, but they, because of shirk, okay, and because of this self, they just didn't want to connect. They had the knowledge, but they didn't implement it. And they just changed everything. So it's the question for us now, as we came out of the month of Ramadan, where we had that opportunity to connect to the Quran, is transition going to then turn to transformation? Or are we going to be like the previous nations, particularly the Israelites, which is mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah? And also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala focuses on the story of Adam alayhi salam. What is key here, we are all weak, we all make mistakes, but Adam alayhi salam turned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and asked for forgiveness. But the Israelites didn't. To this day, they didn't, because of the arrogance, because of that shirk, okay? They went away and they turned away from the ayah. They turned away from the signs from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The believers are the believers. So this point of putting Ramadan there in Baqarah was to help us understand this is an opportunity for us. You have been given this opportunity. Previous nations also fasted, but now even for a shorter time, but I'm giving you the month of Ramadan for a whole month. So there is more pain, but there's going to be benefit at the end of it. I'm putting this month of Ramadan in Al-Baqarah surrounded by these signs for you to learn. Are you going to look? Are you going to understand? Are you going to be able to see with your eyes, but most importantly, with your heart? And are you going to turn out just like the previous nations did, just like the Israelites did? Okay, which takes us to Surah Al-Fatiha, guide us to the straight path, not the path which causes Allah's anger or leads us astray, and takes us right back to Surah Yusuf, where we started tonight. Okay, where Allah talks to the Prophet and says in the ayat, don't worry that they turn away from the signs. Even the minority will turn away from the signs, and the hellfire will contain the majority of jinn and insan. Okay, so we now, post-Ramadan, have to think, where am I in this dunya? Where am I in this journey towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? I am a Muslim. What does it mean? I follow al-Islam. What does it mean? I have the Quran, which is a book of guidance. Am I following it? Am I seeing these signs? What do they mean to me? Am I having a relationship with them? Because we cannot ignore them. Cannot ignore them. Okay. Okay. Inshallah ta'ala. Next slide.
وقال الرسول يا رب إن قوم اتخذوا هذا القرآن مهجورا.
And the messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, وقال الرسول يا رب إن قوم اتخذوا هذا القرآن مهجورا. Oh my Lord, indeed my people have taken this Quran as a thing abandoned. May Allah enable us not to be part of these people. Okay, we learn there in Surah Al-Baqarah, and so much is mentioned of the previous nations, the Israelites. Okay, they had the revelation, they were given the prophets, they were surrounded by the signs, and they had the knowledge. But they didn't implement it. They just wanted to change it. And they turned to their desires, to their nafs. And that was the whole point of the month of Ramadan. We're post-Ramadan, okay? What is our relationship, or what was our relationship with the Quran in that month of Ramadan will determine where we are now. We should now be on a journey of transition to transformation. As we go through this halaqah, we will learn what the mission was of the Prophet, which was fourfold, and understand that that mission, 4 key missions, was transitioning to total transformation. Okay, we have the revelation. SubhanAllah. We need to connect with the revelation, but we cannot connect to the revelation without understanding all of the ayats. Okay. Very important. We have to work hard to make sure we don't fall in the state of ghafla, in the state of heedlessness. And that's why with Heart See, it is focused primarily on the heart that sees. And in order for the heart that sees, we have to go through these 5 principles, which is the rewiring how we see, how we think. So we don't come like the Israelites, the previous nations, the people of Ad, the people of Thamud, that we will also study, okay? We need to reconnect to the ayat. We then need to rewild, learn how to connect to the science of the nazm of the Quran, which corresponds to the nazm of the universe. Then how to redesign and then implement. Okay, we need to implement al-Islam into our lives, into our families' lives, before we can do anything else. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the translation says he will not change the condition of a nation or people hatta, until they change that is within themselves. We are seeing great injustice, great oppression in the world today. But we have to then remember, before we point the finger, there's three fingers coming back to us. And we will cover the subject of oppression, okay, and how that fits in the most amazing way, an important way, to the laws of nature. So that's the end of the first session of the Halaqah. Any questions before we close?
You can type them in chat or you can unmute yourself, inshallah. Someone's put a comment in the chat saying, really interested in how laws of nature relate to oppression.
Yes, we will cover that. So in a nutshell, when we look at Nazm of the Quran, so how looking at coherence and structure and order, so how we see the natural world in its perfect order, everything is in its particular place, is what we have to understand ecosystems through a qualitative approach, not quantitative. And oppression is injustice. It's destroying that balance, okay, which then you destroy that balance, and then you feel then you can override that law that is there. And that's where we get individuals that we've seen that they're mentioned in the Quran. We see individuals that then become groups, etc. And that leads us to a sad reality that although we look at oppression in relation to countries, what's taking place now, we forget about the oppression and injustice that's taking place when we go against the laws of nature, against the mizan, and sadly, it is in people's houses abundantly. How the husband treats the wife, how the husband treats the children. This is part of oppression, okay, and it has a deep relationship to a state of ghafla in relation to the natural world, to the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because in the natural world, we don't see oppression and we don't see injustice. But we want to ignore the oppression and injustice that's taking place in our homes. How outside we show this beautiful akhlaq of a Muslim, but we come home and become like animals. Okay, so we will cover that inshallah.
Like I heard another comment in the chat says, Jazakallah Shaykh, I never realized how the ayah you mentioned says heart, then hearing, then seeing, and why in that order. SubhanAllah, it really makes sense when you link it to nature.
And it's important, just as I highlighted, when we do the sit spots, when we go around tonight, and you know the whole point is to look, but whatever you are seeing is the form. Okay, it's the form. It's the sound, which is the vibration, which is the energy and the light, which is manifested. Okay, so we have to understand this in terms of quantum physics today, because everything from our cells to everything operates like that. So sound is the priority before we see. Without the sound, then there's no tree, there's no bird, there's absolutely nothing. And we'll move into that. Seems a difficult area, a strange subject, but not so strange when you look at our ulama who understood it, who researched it, wrote about it, and going right back to our ancient civilization. But it's because we are in a state of ghafla that we've been disconnected to it.
Another question. You mean fractal patterns? Is this the branching pattern?
Yes. Yeah. So these branching patterns, like what you would see in a tree, we have to understand them. Okay, we have to see them, but these and the pattern in a tree is 100% positive. But those same branching patterns are within us, are also within the cosmos. Okay, and there's an overriding key pattern which is in the universe, but also, so they're all positive patterns, and we need to live by those. We need to live in harmony with them. And those patterns, the fractal pattern, is in the Quran. If Allah, as I said, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created the universe in perfect order, would he then have delivered the Quran, the final revelation, in a completely disorder, which even Muslims say it's confusion, it's disordered, it repeats itself, it's disjointed. Those who are against and oppose Islam, academics in universities, and those against Islamophobes, they say that this Quran is not divine, because they are approaching the Quran in the wrong manner. The Quran is in divine order, just like the natural world. So if we're seeing the fractal patterns in the natural world, we're going to see the fractal patterns in the Quran. And we need to know them and why they are there. The cycles we see in the natural world, the cycles we see in the Quran. And that connects us to past, present, and future. Okay, whether we're looking at verbs or history, present, and the future, inshallah.
How can you encourage young people to pay an interest in nature as opposed to being focused on tech, making those small steps to change?
Yeah, all I can suggest is you learn more about, particularly young people, about our outdoor madrasas. That really helps to connect children. And I've seen the change where they are, so connected to, social media and the iPhone. But once you go through the sort of the outdoor madrasa syllabus, you will begin to see this transformation, this transition to transformation. But it takes time, because behind all of this is a system which has been supported by Western civilization, which is left brain hemisphere, which is a digelic system, which I explain Heartsea in many of the videos and lectures, which has been established since around the 16th and 17th century. So to undo it, it takes time. Hence, the first principle of Heartsea is about the rewiring. Rewiring means the reconditioning. Okay, it takes time. But we have to focus on the Quran. The Quran is the rewiring process. You have to have a relationship with the Quran.
I've been trying to do a very short sit spot, just a few seconds to a minute, with my forest school group and trying to build it up. Is there a way to do this with the children, as their attention span isn't as long as adults when they're not used to it?
Yeah, I mean, ideally 5 minutes, 7 minutes, but even if they can't concentrate, even if it was just 10 seconds, 30 seconds, just build it up slowly. And if you want support, then you can contact me on the WhatsApp group, and I can help and guide in that way. We're living in times where attention is to the natural world, to anything now, is so difficult, but it can be done. And that as a last resort, we can also, in our sit spot exercises, in a number of the nature activities, we can actually allow youngsters to use the electronic devices in a positive way. Okay, so let's understand the electronic devices are not going to go away. So how do we use them in a positive way? And we can do it.
No more questions.
بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام لرسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Look forward to seeing you next week.
Alaikum salam.